This is why we support Obamacare. The first reason is it allows people to stay on their parents' health insurance until they turn 26, regardless of whether or not they finished school, whether or not they were married. And this would have been a big help to us. We were pretty young when we got married.
We were 22.
And we lost our parents' health insurance when that happened. When we did the responsible thing, we had to start paying out of pocket for student insurance that covered much less. We no longer had dental benefits, we no longer had prescription benefits. And we don't want to get too much into personal health information, but it would have been a big help if we had been able to stay on this until we had a chance to get established in our professions, in our careers.
Yeah. As you know, a lot of Mormons tend to get married kind of young, and so I think this is actually this should be a big issue for the LDS community. This should be something that we're paying attention to. This is something that helps people be responsible. If we had just moved in together without getting married, we would have been fine. But under the laws at the time, in 2006, we lost our health insurance because we took the responsible step of getting married. And that to me is a big problem. That's not fair, that's not just, and that's not family friendly.
And the Affordable Care and Patient Protection Act changes that by not punishing responsibility, by allowing young families to get the health coverage that they need. When we had our first child, we were still around...
On terrible student health insurance.
And they kept trying to deny pretty much everything that we filed, even though we had had the insurance for a while.
And it was technically covered, they just gave us the runaround and everything.
And so making sure that health insurance bureaucracies do the job that they're supposed to do of paying out benefits and making sure we get coverage, we're big fans of that.
And that's part of what Obamacare does, or the Patient Protection Act, or whatever it is. Obamacare is great. So I'm going to talk about another reason I think it's awesome. There are your traditional drugs, which are synthesized in a vat, just the traditional chemical methods, and there's a newer class which are made by yeast that are genetically engineered to produce proteins. A lot of medications are proteins. Insulin is one of these.
So are a lot of arthritis medications and other medications that really help people have a good quality of life.
There are a whole host, a whole host of medications for autoimmune conditions that are actually very common. I don't know if MS is one of them, but definitely rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, psoriasis. These are all covered by this class of drugs that, again, are these manufactured proteins, and they are incredibly expensive because we don't have a process to move these from name brand medications to generics like all the other drugs that are synthesized in a vet. They have a process to move those from name brand, which is expensive, to generics after the patent expires. But until Obamacare was passed, we didn't have a way to allow there to be generic versions of these biologically created drugs. And again, these things are incredibly expensive. Insulin,
we're talking $2,000 to $3,000 a month in terms of...
Yeah, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and they're very commonly prescribed, and if people don't get them, they can't be productive, they're crippled. And so it's very important for these people to get these medications so they can have a decent standard of life, and the costs are kept artificially high because we did not have a method for these to become generic. Insulin was another one of these. I had a friend, he said it cost him $400 a month, and as a lot of us know, insulin is something that's very commonly covered by Medicare. Ever since Bush put in Part D, which then covered insulin and other diabetic issues, it did not before, and that caused healthcare costs to skyrocket that the government was paying for. Because insulin is expensive because it's always going to be name brand until there's a generic process put through. And that's one of the things that Obamacare did, was it put in a generic process for these drugs. And I really think that's going to do a huge amount once those generics come through to lower the cost of healthcare, because there are so many people on insulin and there are so many people on these other classes of drugs for autoimmune conditions. A lot of people talk about how it's not going to help the cost of healthcare. I don't think they know what they're talking about. I look at this one paperwork process that's going to allow these generics, and I see a huge amount of potential for decreasing healthcare costs in that, and I'm very happy for that.
So helping, not punishing responsible families, helping people get the care they need, and making sure that healthcare remains affordable. Those are some major reasons why we support President Obama.
There are other reasons, but we want to keep this video short.
And so we're voting for President Obama this November.
Yep.
And we're Mormons.
We're Mormons, and we love Obamacare.